Hey, good evening, y'all. So every time when I get on here, I I almost say good morning because I know like when I'm talking to my sister on the phone and we say, "Hey, how's it going?" and what I typically do is say good morning, no matter what time of the day it is, and so oftentimes that runs through my mind right when I get on here and go live, and I'm like, wait, it is evening, and uh, I'm gonna say good evening. Oh goodness! So I'm glad to be joining y'all again tonight. Like I said last week, what I'll do is I will say hi and address y'all's comments toward the end of the video, if not after the video, and I will respond and say hey and all those things afterwards. But for the sake of time, I will jump right in and get started with what it looks like to have contentment, and more specifically, what it looks like for me having OI to have contentment. You know, in today's world, it's so easy to be discontented. From time to time, I hear people talking about anxiety or worry in their lives and just things that make them uneasy. I'll tell you, I really get uneasy when I have to rely on people, um, or be more dependent on people in in a typical in a larger way than I'm typically used to. For example, I can give you a couple of examples. Um, I'll get anxious. There was one time I was flying out to Arizona to see a friend of mine, and I was flying a really good airline. I'm not going to say their name, um, but they had plane trouble, and we the plane, or I'm sorry, my flight got canceled, and they were going to reschedule me for the following day, and so I had to stay over, and they put me up in a hotel, and I was like, all right, cool, this is nice. I can get some rest and stuff like that, and this would be cool. So I was checking with the airline attendants and asking, okay, so is there handicapped transportation from the airport to the hotel, and will there be that same transportation to the airport from the hotel? I think I said that right. Yeah. From the airport to the hotel, and then from the hotel to the airport. And they were saying, yeah, we got you under control. You don't worry about it. You're all good. So the bus came, and it was not handicap accessible. It was a smaller bus, a shuttle bus, and I was thinking like I was gonna be okay, like in terms of the lift and getting on the bus, and yeah, great. So I had to be carried onto the bus. My chair was also carried, but stowed away in a different part of the bus. I'm like, okay, I'm praying the whole time because this is like a greater reliance on the Lord than my day to day. I mean, I'm always relying on the Lord, to very small degrees throughout my day. It's just something I like to attempt to be continuously in prayer. It's not always a thing that I can do, but anyway, this was just all right, Lord, I am fully relying and dependent on you tonight to get on and off of this bus safely. And so I get to the hotel. First of all, I got on the bus okay. I was all right. Whoever, I can't recall who helped me on, but there was a sweet gentleman that offered to help me off of the bus. He had his wife with him, and I was like, okay, are you cool with this? And he said, yeah, just tell me what I gotta do. And I was thinking to myself, all right, cool. But then, as he got closer, I smelled that he had been drinking. And oh my goodness, my uneasiness just skyrocketed through the roof. And I was so nervous, I was shaking. If anything, he could have dropped me because I was shaking so much. I was so nervous, and I was praying out loud too. I was like, "All right, Lord, please, please, Lord, don't let this guy like slip or miss a step because I'm gonna break a lot of bones if he does." Um, and so he was fine. He carried me down the steps, and uh, I was cool. But that experience, let me tell you, that was an experience that was really cool and really scary at the same time. It was something that brought me to a point where, all right, I can do these things and I'll be okay. Like, whatever happens, happens. I'm in the Lord's hands. Another time I'll get anxious is if I believe that I'm about to break a bone. I guess those two go one and the same, but there are instances where, you know, uh, if I foresee something happening, such as if I broke a bone doing the same thing before, I'll get nervous and anxious. But that was a really cool experience, just to let you know, because I grew from that. But depending on your upbringing, you may struggle with anxiousness to varying degrees. Some households are a little more anxious, and your kids are raised up in that, and and then sometimes there are less anxious households, and that's just the way it is. But if you're someone who's a Christian and goes to church, I assume you've heard the phrase contentment in Christ. Unfortunately, sorry, I lost my place. Okay. Unfortunately, it seems to become a cliche saying that some aren't sure exactly what that means. Excuse me. I'm not sick, I promise. I'm good. My voice just a little dry. Um, but I think I gathered this because a few weeks ago I was talking to a friend and I asked him. I said, "Hey, dude, what does that actually mean to be content in Christ?" And we had some really good conversation. But I gathered that because I'm gonna ask you, and please comment your answers below if you feel comfortable. What does it actually mean to be content? And even if you're a Christian, what does it mean to be content in Christ? If you've been a believer, a Christian, for 2 to 30, 40 years, it's possible to think that you've got it all handled, that you have it all figured out. But I tell you, when life throws challenges at you, and such as me breaking a bone, or a deep, meaningful friendship changes, my contentment in the Lord shakes. I get fearful, worrisome, even a little depressed. Something to add, when Jesus was in the garden, and even when he was on the cross, he experienced some great turmoil with what he was going through. In Matthew 26:38 through 40, I'm going to read this to you real quick. He says, um, "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch with me." And going a little farther, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you but as your will be done. And he came to his disciples and found them sleeping. And he said, Peter, so could you not watch with me for an hour? So I bring that passage to you because, Jesus was really struggling with what he was about to go through. And let me tell you, I'm not meaning to convey that me breaking a bone or a meaningful relationship or whatever, some type of challenge that I may go through is exactly comparable to the immense turmoil that Christ was facing. But the concept of trusting the Father is similar in nature. Even when Jesus was on the cross, as I made mention in Matthew 27:46, he says that he cried, Father, my God, why have you forsaken me? Forsaken me. And in that moment, he was just feeling lonely and really broken by being on the cross. And he was going through a lot of turmoil. And I know that in life we go through a lot of turmoil, and Christ, he bared that on our behalf. A lot of same things that you go through. And it was his contentment in the Father's plan that he knew it was for the good. And in those moments, he was deeply struggling. Similarly to how you do, and me too. Thankfully, that having many challenges occur so often in my life, the Lord has helped me lean on him. My challenges mirror yours in that I struggle with being fearful and easy, worrisome from time to time. If you let yourself dwell on the things, it begins to create a normal or regular discontentment in your thoughts. So if you let yourself dwell on things that make you anxious or worrisome, uneasy, depressed, that will become like a regular thought pattern, and it will make you even more discontented. One other passage I'll read to you as well in Romans 12:2, which gives me so much encouragement. It says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. The world is really full of discontentment. That discontentment comes from sin, which is apart from God. Here's the thing I'd like to remind you from my talk about identity. When you have your identity wrapped in the Lord, you tend to have this ease, this contentment about you. Another way to think about contentment is to be satisfied or a deep trust. Today, our sermon was so good. Like, really, God did something really neat today, where our pastor was talking about rest in the Lord. And wow, it was so parallel to what I'm talking about today. And so, another word for contentment that I could use is peace. To having a peace in the Lord, this restfulness. One way this really comes, though, is through our trials. I know through my trials has caused me to be more dependent and more reliant on the Lord, and it's been a really amazing and beautiful thing. And that is us experiencing the uncomfortable things, the things that makes us anxious, or the challenges we face. And as we face those challenges, the Lord works in them. And it is in that's where contentment manifests. Because hopefully you learn that He carries you all the way through each step of the way. So, my last question would be, how can you contain, or how can you obtain that contentment in your life? And the way you can do that is to believe and trust that Jesus died on the cross for sin. You and I, being sinners, all it takes is for you just to believe and trust in that very truth that Jesus died to give you life. So thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. In closing, I want to remind you the ultimate mission of Ricky Speaks Life is that lives would be touched. Why do I stumble over this? By hearing of God's goodness through Jesus on the cross. And also providing customized wheelchairs, manual wheelchairs, to those who can't afford them. Would you join me? Would you continue in joining me to create an avenue for those who don't know Jesus and also can't afford a wheelchair? If so, would you please pray and consider on supporting Ricky Speaks Life financially? Lastly, please like this Facebook page for further updates and more videos to follow. I hope you have a good night, and I will see you next week.